It's FT presented by Fox One. The thumbnail cover on YouTube of our show today is Alive and Dangerous. Kratz, would that be the movie you star in?
Yes.
AJ, do you wish that you were on another cross-country flight?
Yeah, because that means I'd still be working in the playoffs. So, yes, why not?
That's true. Okay, well, let's start the show. AJ's here. Braun, Kratz, and Marathon Man.
That's right.
Marathon Man. We haven't talked to you since the marathon.
I know. I forgot. It's been a while. I know. That was almost a week ago now. I forgot. It's been just so many games and things that have happened, but what a game. I mean, honestly, what a game. Crazy game. I mean, every pitcher kept just getting double plays at the greatest times I've ever seen, and just awesome to be a part of it. And finally, somebody got the hit. It was Jorge Polanco. At one point, I just never thought that game was going to end. We're sitting there going, what else can happen in this game? And then eventually, the right guy came up in the right spot.
The Tigers still haven't scored, and if they had continued to play, they still would not have scored.
They had their chance.
They were never going to score.
And by the way, bunt. Someone needs to learn how to bunt. But other than that, I mean, they did bunt. Actually, the Tigers did bunt at the right time. And they had second and third for Javi Baez, who had faced the guy 4 days in a row, and he got absolutely blown up on a ground ball to third. And then they walked Kerry Carpenter, and Glaber got out. But yeah, I mean, they did it. They had their chance. That was their chance. They had first and second, no outs. Parker Meadows lays down a great bunt, and then it was Javi's turn, and he didn't get it done. But I mean, we've all been there. We understand. But man, what a game. I mean, Seattle, way to go. And they carried that momentum to Toronto the first two games. They struggled a little bit last night, but I still like where they're at. I still like where Seattle's at because they have their pitching kind of lined up the way they wanted it. And we'll see. But yeah, what a great game and one of the best playoff games I've ever seen. Just from everything happening. I mean, the strategy, the pitching, who's going to hit, should we steal? What should we do here? What should we do there? How's this guy going to get out of this jam? What a great game.
It was awesome. Great job on the call. That was a marathon.
Thank God.
5 hour plus.
Hey, thank God Adam Amin just kept screaming because every time we thought we were getting a little bit tired, he would just start screaming about something. It was great. He was so good in that game. You know, Scott, you've done play-by-play. You can't really script what you're going to say because the game never really goes where it's supposed to go. And so, but for him at the end to have the Polanco and the 24 years and the whole thing, the 95 thing, which I think was on the same day, was pretty crazy.
Yeah, Adam's great, and he's an ad-libber. I am an ad-lib play-by-play guy. There actually are some that try to script their calls. I don't know. I think that's weird and difficult. It's one thing to have an idea of what you want to make sure you include, but Adam into breaks too was bringing it. Like if you felt as if it was getting slow during the extra inning portions at times where you're like, hey, I'm looking for more action here, Adam would like rise it right back up. Like, and we're going to a 13th, a 14th, a 15th.
By the way, Humpy won. I don't know if you guys know this, but Humpy, the salmon, had never won, and Humpy won in the second salmon race of the day for the first time ever. So Humpy won that. Humpy, we had 2 seventh-inning stretch, and we had 2 salmon races, and Humpy won, which pushed the Mariners over the top to win that game. I think that's what it was. It was because Humpy won.
That's been the big chatter out in Seattle now, all about Humpy. And hey, if your name's Humpy, I think you should win more often. Giggity. Anyway, let's charge.
Charging the mound.
And we're charging the mound, powered by MLB Rivals. Free to get the game. Go check it out. Let's start with the Brewers and the Dodgers and get your thoughts on this series. AJ, heading into a game 3 in Los Angeles, a team that has their pitching lined up and still really hasn't gotten much from Shohei Ohtani, who's trying to switch things up on the off day to get the bat going.
He hasn't done anything, has he? I mean, he hasn't really.
He had one RBI knock in the last game.
Yeah, but nothing. I mean, nothing what we've come to expect with the homers and all that. What do I think about this series? I think that I picked the Dodgers to go to the World Series. They've been number 1 in my power rankings the entire time, and I think they're just continuing to do what they do. Listen, the regular season for the Dodgers is nothing at all what it's about. And so it's all about the postseason. So when they can go Snell 8 innings, Yamamoto CG, which I didn't think we'd see a CG this postseason. Well, we got one, so way to go. I mean, now they have Glass now, right? And then game 4, they're going. I'm assuming they'll maybe go Shohei. I mean, they're just listed as a pitcher, but think about that. And the Brewers have already had 2 bullpen games in 3. Like, that's what's crazy to me is that the Brewers, in best record in the National League, have already had are going to have their second bullpen game in 3 games. And Ashby started both of them. I guess it's the new opener thing, and then they'll bring in whoever after it. But I mean, the team with the best record in baseball is supposed to have really good pitching, and Freddie Peralta did okay. But I mean, they got nothing else. That's what's crazy. And the Dodgers are just exerting their dominance on them right now. And I don't know what they can do to stop it, because if Freddie hits and Mookie hits and then the rest of the lineup hits, you can't stop this team.
They're cooked. They're cooked if they can't keep these guys down. I mean, they haven't been hitting very well. Mookie scored 1 run, I think, this entire. I think he scored 1 run. Freddie got his first RBI the other night when he hit a homer, and Shohei hasn't done much. So maybe the Brewers do have enough pitching to shut these guys down. Or maybe it's just a slow boil here where all of a sudden it's going to blow the lid off and they're going to have another 11 hit game like they had in game 2. Like, for the Brewers, they did a great job during the season of scoring runs. They got to figure out how to score runs against Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani, and then back to Blake Snell and Yamamoto. Like, to score some runs off of them, like the Phillies did. The Phillies did a great job scoring some runs against them, like 1 to 3 runs off the starters. The Brewers are going to need to score, in my opinion, probably like 4 or 5, because like AJ said, their bullpen is exhausted. Now, if they want to win tonight, they'll throw Quinn Priester, because that's what they do when Quinn Priester throws. They win. But I don't know if it's enough. I just feel like this offense for the Dodgers is going to explode. And I feel like the Brewers offense has to do too much against too good a starting pitching.
Okay, though. They already threw Priester. He threw 4 innings in game 1, and they still lost. They already tried that trick. They threw him already, and they lost. I mean, he went 4 innings, didn't give up anything, but then Patrick came in and gave up the homer, Freddie, and then the Dodgers bullpen obviously held on. But the story of that game was Blake Snell. And then Yamamoto goes a 9-inning spot. Did we even think Yamamoto could go 9 innings? I mean, he goes and was just dominant. I mean, the Brewers had no chance in game 2. So why did we think Tyler Glasnow was going to be any different at home, I guess, and probably in the shadows at 3 o'clock? Do we think it's going to be any different? I mean, who comes – the bigger question for me is who comes in for the Brewers after Ashby? Like, okay, they're doing this trick again with the bullpen game, and we're going to start the opener because Shohei and this and that and that. And they haven't stopped Teoscar. He's been hot like he was last year. Kike's been doing it again. Muncy had the home run. I mean, it's just a depth thing. I'm sorry. And if Bryce Terang doesn't hit, which he hasn't done this postseason, the Brewers have a hard time scoring.
I mean, wouldn't we think we see a little Quintana? I would say hopefully the Miz for a few innings if he's locating. Yeah, Kratz, I don't think Priester yet. I mean, that's what gets weird, though, because Priester's coming in. He's not going a full starter's workload, which is really what he was doing for most of the stretch run this season. So, like, then, I mean, are you giving him full regular rest? You can't really afford to do that because you're using all of your arms. It just gets really messy when you're bullpenning almost every day.
And if you go Quintana, if it's Quintana today, why not Quintana start and then see where you're at? Like, why? Because they think the Ashby matchup's better with Freddie, Shohei, and hopefully Mookie Betts doesn't hurt you. Like, you're playing too much of a hope game. You got to play, in my opinion, they got to this point as the best record in baseball. Whether they were the best team or not can be discussed, but you got to get back to that. And I think just, oh man, scared. Like, did they do all these like opener and like piggyback tricks when they swept the Dodgers during the season? People will say, oh, well, the Dodgers weren't playing very well. I get it, but you swept the Dodgers. You had a formula. Stick to it. And I know it wasn't Aaron Ashby starting every single one of those 6 games.
Yep, good call. Hey, on the hitting side, we talked about how the Dodgers aren't fully cranking with superstars yet. So let's go back to Shohei for a moment. He's 2 for 25 since the wild card round with 12 strikeouts. AJ, he does not like to take BP on the field, but he's switching it up. What does that do for a hitter? Anything? Just more of a superstitious thing to try and do something different?
It's a superstitious thing. And I was somebody that loved to hit on the field because I like to see the ball path, and I wasn't doing all the workload that Shohei does. But I love to hit on the field. I thought it was a great thing because I could see the ball. To me, the path of the ball tells you how your swing is. Like if I'm hitting backspin, then I know, okay, I'm in a good spot. If the ball starts going shoo, like with topspin and a lot of ground balls, I was like, okay, I need to clean up some stuff here, make a little adjustment. But yeah, I mean, I'm amazed how many guys don't hit on the field that often, and they just hit in the cage. And then you get out on the field and they're like, man, I can't understand why I strike out 195 times. Well, you're never outside. And the biggest thing for me going outside was I wanted to acclimatize to where we were. Sometimes it's hot. Sometimes it's cold. You get out there, your body gets a little used to it. I know it's only 30, 45 minutes. But, yeah, I think this is a good thing. He's trying to switch it up. And the best part for him and his team, they're 2-0 with those numbers. So, I mean, the rest of the lineup is just doing it for him.
I played with some dudes with elite power that wouldn't hit on the field because they would see where the ball was going and they were like, I want to hit it further. And Shohei, prime example, he hit one out of the stadium yesterday onto the roof in right center field. And some guys, they were like, dude, if I hit outside, I'm cooked. I will just completely go out of my swing, which I don't need to do extra. And then in the game, that's the swing I grooved. So I've seen both sides of it, and I was always hitting out on the field. That was the only time I got on the field was BP. That was my game. I was locked in.
Back to the Brewers offense for a moment. AJ, we'll get to the ALCS later and how the Blue Jays felt like they made a very good change in approach for Game 3. Is there anything the Brewers can do differently from the first two games and attack plan-wise against Glasnow?
Well, you can't get to his breaking ball because nobody can hit his breaking ball, right? So you kind of got to do what the Blue Jays did, which is attack the fastball early, but it's also 100, so it's a little bit different than what you're normally seeing. But here's what they got to do: Contreras is hitting 220 in the postseason. Christian Yelich is hitting 192. I think I saw a stat he has 1 RBI since like 2018 or something with the Brewers in the postseason. Like, where's Christian Yelich gone? He was so good during the season. Churrio's been fine, but Contreras has disappeared. Terang has disappeared. Yelich has disappeared. Frelick hasn't done a whole lot this postseason. Durbin hasn't done a whole lot this postseason. Joey Ortiz is the same Joey Ortiz he was. Great defense, not a lot offensively. But there's not a lot of options to turn to if you're the Brewers. That's the problem. You got to maybe bunt. You got to maybe try and obviously with Glasnow on the mound, if they get their guys on, they got to run and put pressure on the Dodgers. But I don't know where they turn because they don't hit a ton of home runs as it is. So they can't help, hopefully we get a guy on and we can pop one, kind of like what the Blue Jays did. They just don't have that in their makeup. I mean, they're more of a constant pressure offense. They're not a quick strike usually. Now, they hit home runs, yes. But against really good pitching, it's really hard to do.
Mm-hmm. You got a one-liner here, Kratz?
Giancarlo Stanton said he used to wait for Glasnow's pitch to come at his eyes, and then he'd swing because that was the curveball. And so it's a thought process. See it up above your eyes, and then you're like, I'm going to swing. And he goes, that was the strike curveball.
Okay, well, you bring up a guy that is kind of a creative player in a video game in terms of what he would look like. So let's finish with this on Charge the Mound. Shout out to MLB Rivals and experience the fully integrated 2025 MLB schedule. Take on the World Series with 2025 live cards that you saw during the little conversation here. The game now features baseball legends from the National Baseball Hall of Fame, available as brand new cards. Go to your phone's app store, download MLB Rivals now. It's free, and we'll swing right back after Bryce Harper gives us more on the game.
In baseball, one thing defines your legacy: the Hall of Fame, a place reserved for immortals, the chosen few who have sacrificed, fought, and bled for the game.
Harper with a rainmaker!
With every swing, every play, every challenge faced.
Harper's not happy about that.
It's about achieving greatness that echoes through time.
Harper, the swing of his life!
And Now is your time to rise to the challenge, chase immortality, and become a legend. Download MLB Rivals.
This is for everyone listening right now. What are you wearing right now? And why isn't it MeUndies? Kratz, it is time for everyone to upgrade and get that super soft micro modal glory. So good that you don't want to take it off.
The reason I'm stone facing you is because that's how soft they are. It's ridiculous. Like I don't even understand what kind of material it is. It's got to be something space age for your butt.
Signature super soft micro modal fabric, breathable, stretchy, unbelievably cozy. And now you can even get glow in the dark, part of the Halloween line. Right now, as a listener of FT, you can get cozy and spooky for less with deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/foul. Enter promo code FOUL. That's MeUndies.com/foul. Promo code FOUL for up to 50% off MeUndies. Comfort that's made for fall. Hey, Jay, there's an ESPN article about Albert Pujols also potentially in the running for the Orioles job. Do you think it's real, or he's trying to gain some leverage in his ongoing discussions with the Angels? Those are two very different jobs.
I mean, what has Albert Pujols done? Listen, he was a great player, but what has he done to say that he should be the manager of any big league team? I mean, listen, I think he's going to get the Angels job. They're already paying him, $10 million a year or some crazy number to
$1 million
special or whatever, special services contract or whatever it is. But I don't know. I mean, you would think the Orioles would definitely want to go in the direction of somebody that has some experience to try to run that team because they're supposed to be set up for success. The Angels, they're the wild card here, but I don't know. I mean, listen, Albert's a nice guy and he was an unbelievable player, but is he a manager? We don't know. Nobody knows because he hasn't done any. Yeah, I guess he would manage in the Winter League or he managed the Dominican maybe in WBC, but it's not the same as running a baseball team every single day.
Angels can take that risk in my mind. Orioles cannot. They're in their winning window. If it doesn't work, your front office should be moving on. That is way too risky.
Times now. This is a current manager that you're poaching from somebody, or a ex-manager that has had some success. Sorry, that's the reality of it.
I personally think it's a favor because he's negotiating with them about money in years, for real.
So you think Alden Gonzalez wrote it for that?
No, I think the Orioles said, yeah, we'll talk to you so that you can say you're talking to another team for leverage. Let's hit the inside scoop presented by Fox 1 with Ken Rosenthal calling this series along with the great Tom Verducci and John Smoltz and Joe Davis on the ALCS. It's been super fun. Ken, great to see you. And I loved your article. Can you enlighten everyone on the boxing approach from the Blue Jays in Game 3?
I just thought it was interesting that before the game, John Schneider, the manager, talked about throwing uppercuts. And then after the game, when I talked to the Blue Jays hitting coach, David Popkins, he mentioned the same kind of thing, that when you're in the ring and kind of paralyzed, you've got to start throwing haymakers. And if you watch the game, those were haymakers. 5 home runs, 18 hits, 13 runs. Huge win for the Blue Jays, obviously. And now we go to Game 4, which sets up really interestingly because, of course, Luis Castillo is a tremendous pitcher, has been for quite a long time. And here comes Max Scherzer back to October. Hasn't had the greatest of years, of course, but he's physically fine now, and it's going to be really fascinating to see how he performs.
Well, that's my question, Ken. What do we expect to see out of Scherzer? Castillo's been brilliant in this postseason. I mean, and every time he's gotten the ball, even in that 15-inning marathon we did where you were sleeping in your jammies, right? I mean, he was amazing. So what are we expecting out of Max Scherzer? I expect Castillo to be good again. What can we expect from Scherzer?
Well, AJ, first of all, hearts and flowers to you for having to work extra innings. I know it was so difficult for you, but you did a great job. Now, As for Scherzer, I don't know what to expect. I don't know that anyone knows what to expect. Can he go 6 innings? It would seem improbable, right? But if his velocity's up, if he's got the command of his breaking stuff, if he can compete like Max Scherzer has competed over the years, then can he give the Jays a respectable start at the very least? Yes, I would think the answer to that is yes. But it's a mystery, and that's one of the more intriguing things about this game tonight. We don't know exactly what Max Scherzer is going to be. Now, he did throw a 95-pitch simulated game, I believe it was about a week ago, and that went well. He was up and down 5 times, and seemingly everything was really good. But this is a game situation. It's an ALCS game. Who knows what's going to happen?
Because we don't know what the players are going to do, did you have a chance to talk to John Schneider? Because ultimately, Max Scherzer could probably be throwing a no-hitter, and some managers will be like, all right, that's it. I got a fully rested bullpen from last night. I'm going to him. So did he give you any kind of hint, Schneider?
Well, we haven't talked to him yet about this particular game. It's one game at a time, Erik, as you know.
Yes.
But I would imagine what Schneider is going to say is, hey, we'll ride him as long as we can ride him, and we'll see how the game goes, read and react, and proceed along those lines. I don't know what else they can do. I don't know that you can say, we need 5 from Max Scherzer, or we expect 4 from Max Scherzer. No, it's the playoffs, and what happens in the game dictates all the decisions that come.
Well, we're talking Scherzer. What do we think the leash is on Castillo? Because we've seen Dan Wilson have a short leash, even when pitchers are doing really well, George Kirby and some of the other guys, Logan Gilbert, because he has a fully functioning bullpen tonight. He used all his low leverage guys last night. He punted the game. We get it. And right, so now he has Castillo on full rest, and he's got all his guys, Bizzardo, Brash, Munoz, Spire. He's got them all lined up. So can we expect also a short leash on Castillo so Dan Wilson can run to these guys?
Certainly those guys are rested, AJ, and they stayed away from all of them last night, as you mentioned, and most of them in game 2 as well. Munoz, Brash, and Spire have not pitched since game 1. So they're in great shape. Bizzardo, after a 30-pitch outing in game 2, should be fine as well. He can, again, manage according to the game situation, and if he senses Luis Castillo, say, in the 5th or 6th inning, is not quite what he was in the earlier innings, assuming he's pitching well, yeah, you go right to the bullpen. Do you do it in the 4th if he's pitching well? No, I don't believe you do. Luis Castillo is who he is for a reason, but they have those weapons available to them tonight. They're in a great spot as far as where their pitching is concerned.
What did you see from Shane Bieber, field level? After he gave up that home run and was down and out, you're like, we were talking about the same thing. How long can they actually go with Shane Bieber? His slider swing and miss was, I think, the best percentage that he had on the season so far. Did you see a change after that first home run by Julio?
Yes, I certainly did. And that first inning, to me, it looked like he didn't have much. And his stuff was down. And it was kind of like in the division series against the Yankees when he was sort of spraying the ball and just didn't have great command, great feel for what he was doing. And suddenly it appeared, and this is how it looked, I'm sure he would maybe tell you differently, like the light bulb went on. Like all of a sudden, boom, he had it. Now, what was interesting is that after the game, it came out that after he allowed the home run to Julio Rodriguez and one-out double to Polanco, he went in the dugout at the end of that inning and told his teammates, hey, guys, pick me up. My stuff is good. So he obviously sensed something. He obviously felt pretty good about what was going on. But when you're watching the game, you're wondering exactly what you said. Is this going to be a sweep? Is he going to be out right away? How is this all going to play out?
Hey, Ken, by the way, I know you're in that fancy hotel that we couldn't get in when we were in Seattle, so, the blinds are kind of blinding me, so come on.
Yeah, I know, AJ.
We were at the Holiday Inn.
What do you want from my life?
We were in the Holiday Inn Express, Ken, okay? You guys are in a fancier
right.
hotel. I get it. So, understood. I understand how it works. It's fine. You guys have private jets. We have other jets. It's cool.
AJ, cry me a river.
Okay, I'm trying, Ken.
You are.
You're not listening, though. But what about Vlad? I mean, is Vlad just the engine for the Blue Jays that makes him go? I mean, every time he gets a hit, it's almost like, I know Jimenez got it started, but it's like when Vlad comes up in those moments and he gets those hits, the emotion and everything just changes for the Blue Jays. Does he have to just carry the freight for them every single night?
I don't know that I would go that far, AJ, but you're right. He is their engine. He is their guy, and he brings them energy. Even last night when it appeared he might get the cycle on the final double, the dugout was alive. They're all signaling him, no, don't go for it. And certainly he is the center of that team, and the contract has made him even more the center of that team. It gave him the knowledge that he would be there, and the players the knowledge that he would be there. But if you look at last night's game, the first big blow was Jimenez's 2-run homer that tied the game. And they had some other big hits in that inning, the Varsho 2-run double. So he's not alone here. And they've gotten a lot of contributions from a lot of different sources. We've talked about this quite a bit this season. And from that perspective, it's not simply the Vlad show. But if you're asking me how important he is, how meaningful what he does is to that team, there's no question. And what's interesting also is even the first two games, okay, he goes 0 for 7. His last 6 outs were on the ground. And you wonder, okay, is he slowing down finally? And then last night he went nuts again. So he clearly is a guy, we've seen this now, who rises to the moment. Didn't always earlier in his career in the postseason, in a small sample. And it's kind of like seeing a superstar fully flowered now, fully mature. And it's cool. It's really cool to see this happening. And he's an energy player. He's a guy who is underrated in some of the other aspects of the game. And frankly, he's just been a joy to watch this postseason.
Ken, opinion question, but I feel like it's somewhat of a layup. Is the contract warranted? I know it's incredibly early and things can happen, but this is what front offices look for. Franchise player you can build around, you can profit off of, business-wise. Successful player, clutch player. We're talking about him being the key cog in the offense and the age factor, which is the biggest part. He's still a baby in our sport.
Actually, Scott, you make a good point here, even by asking the question. And when front offices and executives look at contracts like this, they will say, well, no, he's not worth that because of his performance on the field, his WAR and all that. Some executives will say that. And that might be valid. That $500 million for 14 years for Vlad Guerrero might prove to be a big mistake. But there are other things that we don't measure that go into this kind of thing. And you just mentioned it. He's box office. He is extremely popular in Toronto, in Canada. He is a guy who is someone you want to build your franchise around. And what he's doing in this postseason, that doesn't necessarily go into the financial calculation when you're looking at WAR and all that. But my gosh, it's incredibly meaningful. So it's hard for me to say right now that it's worth it. But as we've seen over the years, baseball contracts over time look better and better in certain respects in terms of other people passing them. People will get more money than Vlad Guerrero. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. I remember at the time with the Tatis contract in San Diego, I thought, oof, that's a lot. But even though he hasn't had the most consistent of goes here, it looks pretty reasonable now in many respects. So I don't know that we can pass judgment on it, but I think what we can say, Scott, to your point is there's more to it than batting average, OPS, defensive metrics. No, it goes beyond that with a franchise type player because of the value he creates intangibly in other ways.
Ken, I know you're in Seattle, but I have 2 quick questions for you. One, is the biggest lie of all time that it's always cloudy and rainy in Seattle? Because I've been there a lot and it's always sunny there, right? And it's sunny on you now. So is that just
sunny right now, AJ?
I know, clearly, but to keep people out of Seattle, is that one of the things that they tell? Oh, it's cloudy. It's always, every time I've been there, I mean, not every time, but a lot of times it's sunny and it's beautiful there. So I think they just tell people that to keep them away.
I don't know, AJ, but I will say this. These 2 cities that are in the ALCS are 2 of the more beautiful cities in North America. And I love visiting them both. It's been too long in both cases, and the cities are just spectacular. And it is sunny here. And it was sunny here yesterday.
Are you going to throw a fish? Are you going to throw a fish in the market? Are you going to throw a fish in the market?
AJ, I'm working, brother.
Oh, come on. You don't get outside and walk. It's like 2 blocks from where you're staying. You can walk down the hill and you can get right there. Just go up to the guy and say, I want to buy a salmon, but only if I can throw it. And he'll go, oh, salmon. He'll do his whole spiel and you can pick it up and then you'll probably clank it against the other fish, but it's okay.
AJ, I don't think I'll be doing that. Just saying.
Joe Davis and John Smoltz might. They were carving a turkey. I like that.
They
Joe.
were.
Perfect.
They were.
That's more their style. Ken's going to report on the field. Ken, great stuff so far. It's been a really fun broadcast, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
That's Ken Rosenthal, Inside Scoop. Also, Ken on Fair Territory twice a week. Fresh episode came out yesterday. If you want to give that a listen, there were plenty of questions about some of the things you, and I'm talking about people in the chat, were asking about, like managers and GMs, the ratio of how many openings there are, stuff like that. So I encourage you to give it a listen. And that was Inside Scoop, presented by Fox One. Stream now. Fox One is brand new. It's an app. It's where you can catch the rest of the baseball postseason on the American League side, and then the World Series, of course. Start your 7-day free trial today. October baseball's peak drama, unscripted, unforgiving. 4 teams in the hunt in the World Series. One leaves as a champ, and you can watch it all unfold streaming live on Fox One. End of the show today, we will give you a little more info on what's inside the Fox One app. Hey, we're back for a couple minutes here, and then we'll do better than box scores on the ALCS. This one is an AJ special. The Pope loves you so much, AJ, that he bit back at a Cubs fan.
As everyone should. Yep. And Cubs fans were mad that the Brewers trolled him with the L flag, which I loved, by the way. I mean, to the victor goes the spoils. To the losers goes the crying. And you know what? There was a lot of crying, and now the guy at the top of the Catholic Church threw it right in their face. And I love the fact that fans are now making the hand perdido flag. Send me one, people, because I will wave it proudly when they lose.
They got him. Like, that guy just was like, he's going to go cry in his Cubs hat.
It's like I flew all the way to the Vatican to see the Pope.
Go Cubs!
And he shaded me.
Oh,
Cubs
there it
lost.
is.
Han perdido.
It's going to be on the front lawn at the Pierzynskis.
Oh, every time. Because I got neighbors that fly the W flag when I'm driving by, and there are times where I just want to go
Really?
light that thing on fire. Oh, yeah. I got a couple of them.
In your
A
neighborhood?
couple?
Mm-hmm.
I thought all Chicago people vacationed or moved down to Arizona. I didn't know they came
must
down
live
there.
here. There's a couple people that fly them, and there are times where I want to go up to them. I don't know them, and just say, "Hey, can you guys fly the L flag when they lose? Because if you're so excited when they win, why don't you be so excited when they lose?"
My favorite troll that the Brewers social media did to the Cubs social media was the one year the Brewers finished the season first in the NL Central, and they said, "Are you going to keep those flags up all season?" Asking for a friend, because they always have the standings, and it's so you have to keep, like, the Brewers are above the Cubs. How long do they keep those flags up? I think that's fun.
Better than box scores, let's hit the ALCS. And if you regularly follow this show, you would hear AJ Pierzynski often alluding to the fact that it is very possible to have an offensive explosion in Seattle. Example A, Game 3 of the ALCS, 16 total runs, 8 home runs, ties a postseason record for one single game. Toronto alone had 18 hits and 5 homers. So I guess you can hit in Seattle at times. Did anything look different to you besides the ball clearly carrying quite nicely?
Well, they were going oppo. That was nice. I mean, Alejandro Kirk's ball was smack. I mean, he hit that, and I was like, he started trotting right away. I was like, dang. Reminded me back in the day when, like, Brett Boone would hit it to right and just flip his bat. I'm telling you, man, when listen, when it was Safeco. Now, T-Mobile was first built. We used to love going in there to hit. The only thing we hoped for was a day game. The roof was closed because or it was cloudy if it was open, because if it was sunny, the backdrop was a little bit bright. And we'd always get Felix Hernandez on the day games. We're like, oh, man, can we at least get a little cloudiness? But other than that, I always loved hitting in Seattle. Now, maybe because I hit my first big league homer in Seattle and I have a lot of good memories, Phil Humber's perfect game and some other things. but I always really liked hitting there. They used to have the Hit It Here Cafe, and we used to take turns just teeing off on trying to hit the bullseye up there. I mean, it wasn't like the ball didn't carry there. I don't know what's changed. I guess the humidor changed.
I guess historically lefties hit better for power there. Raul Ibanez said that years ago. He's like, man, you got to be big boy pop to hit him out right-handed. But to me, it looked last night like it just looked like everything was gonna go out. You put the ball in the air. Normally, fly ball pitchers, that's where you want to go. Last night, not so much, because I get it. The one was a wall scraper. Now I'm forgetting who. It was one of the late ones by the Mariners, but it was a wall scraper that was almost robbed. But man, like every other one was deep sauce.
Cal, just over
Was it
Lucas'
Cal's?
glove. Yeah, Lucas
Okay,
leaped,
thank you.
and they showed the replay. It was somewhat close. That was the 8th, where you had the Randy and Cal back-to-back dingers, and they're hoping that Randy lights up because he's a streaky player and he had a really powerful year. And I do think that he's one of the keys to the Mariners actually winning the World Series. To get through this series, I think they could get away with him still slumping. To get through the Dodgers, I think Randy's going to have to be much more of a catalyst at the top of the lineup, just throwing that in there. But on the Toronto side, AJ, 2 things stood out to me. Let's start with Shane Bieber. This is why you go for a pitcher like this at the trade deadline. And there is risk to it because he hasn't even made, I think that was his 9th start since coming back from surgery and missing a long period of time. But he's got that in him. And they talked a lot on the broadcast about how the slider looked flat in the first inning, and he clearly made an adjustment and got the break and the bite on it. And he was fooling them left and right. He looked like vintage Shane Bieber. And if that's what they have, they suddenly have a number 1 or 2 starter that they were hoping to acquire at the deadline.
Well, I mean, he's got one of the best sliders, breaking balls, whatever, slurve, sweeper, curve, whatever the heck, knuckle curve, whatever. Whatever it is. His ball literally comes at you when you watch it on TV, and it looks like it stops, and then it just makes a turn, right? I mean, it's like, I mean, it just like looks like it stops. And you talked about Randy Arozarena. I mean, I watched his at-bats last night. He had no chance on those sliders. He was throwing those sliders. He was throwing just enough fastballs up and in and into these right-handed hitters to get them off. And then all of a sudden he would just throw that slider, and they just kept swinging out. Couldn't hit it after the first inning, after Julio hit the one. So I think that he's got one of the best breaking pitch combinations, however you want to word it, that I've seen in a long time. When he's healthy, this is what he can do.
And he did make, I think, 7 minor league starts. So it's kind of cool to see like the parallel. Shohei Ohtani rehabbed in the big leagues. Shane Bieber rehabbed, but both started kind of at the same time. And so like they're at those outings, and sometimes they have little blips during these. I would still call it rehab. Like he's probably 16 starts into his Tommy John rehab, coming back from Tommy John. So you're going to have, everybody has flat innings. Even healthy pitchers have flat innings, but to still come back and then be able to make that adjustment. My question would be, what if the Mariners or the Blue Jays hadn't blown it open? Would they have given him that chance to shine like he did last night? My opinion, probably not. They just don't let pitchers shine. And a guy like that has a lot of experience, sometimes you just got to let him eat. You got to let him go out there. I'm not saying that's what they got to do with Max tonight. I'm saying you got to let him figure it out and get in the groove of the game, even if it is a 1-run or tie ball game.
That's a good point. I mean, they certainly didn't give him a long leash against the Yankees. I mean, he looked much better this time around, but who knows? Maybe he gets out of that inning and then has a great 4th and 5th or even 6th for them like he did last night. He was fantastic. Other thing, we have some evidence here on Vladdy Jr.'s swing and miss because it keeps going down at the right time. I mean, he's a very complete hitter, I would say. His profile, right, AJ? He's got pop. He's got the hit tool. He can take a walk. But we have this board here from Mike Petriello showing the swing and miss percentage by month. I mean, it started coming back down in September from a high in August. The high in August was around 23%. Now in October, he's down to about 11%.
Yeah. This is what you want to see in the postseason. You want to see guys that step it up in the postseason. Vladdy's done this. I mean, I think the only thing that people complain about Vladdy is they think he should be a 50, 60 home run guy. And I don't think he's going to be that. He's going to be a 30-ish home run, maybe some years a little bit more, some years a little bit less. But because he usually makes good swing decisions and he usually hits for a relatively high average, I think he's a complete hitter. And I know some people say, oh, he should hit more homers. But this dude he can carry a lineup when he needs to. And he's been doing that this postseason.
I think not striking out in the playoffs is a quality trait to have. Obviously, that's a general statement, but not swinging and missing, like low swing and miss. Prime example right here on this show. AJ Pierzynski, prime, doesn't swing and miss at a lot of pitches. Doesn't strike out a lot either, but doesn't swing and miss at a lot of pitches. Career 300 batting average in a postseason. Almost a 900 OPS. Like, you perform at the biggest levels because they're not going to make you swing and miss. Yeah, maybe the Brewers, maybe the Blue Jays early in this series have put too many balls in play, swung too early. Now they win and they boat race the Mariners and they flip the script. They were swinging early. They were super aggressive. So to me, there are certain traits that play well in the postseason, and not swinging and missing clearly is one of them.
Okay, so let's spin it forward. What do we have for Luis Castillo and Max Scherzer matching up in Game 4? Castillo's been really good in the playoffs. Obviously, you got to see him, AJ, pitch a couple times in that series. I will point out the Tigers' offense, quite different from the Blue Jays' offense. I don't think you can get much different between those two. And Castillo was beat up in a couple starts against the Blue Jays this year. 8 earned runs in 10 innings, 17 hits. Do you factor that into how you'd predict this thing?
No, does not mean anything at all. It doesn't mean a thing. I mean, it could have been a bad day, could have been a little sore, something could have been going on at home, could have had a bad meal before I don't know. There's a million things. No, it doesn't mean anything. What I look for is short leashes for both these guys. Listen, if either of them gets through the 5th inning, I think that would be considered a great start because both managers' bullpens are in good spots. And I think they're both going to get them in there as soon as possible, especially the Mariners. I think the Mariners for sure. And well, I shouldn't say that. Also the Blue Jays, because Max, we just don't know. Max gives you 3-4, he gets into the 5th. John Snyder's going to be like, all right, thank you. And hopefully they're in the game. And boom, here we go with the bullpen guys. Because the bullpen for Toronto can be good when they get the right matchups.
Or when they don't have to pitch every single night. Louis Varland's like standing there in the bullpen going, what? The game's over? I didn't even get to pitch. I was going to break a record. Another thing you have to look at Luis Castillo's outings. They came within, hang on, I'm going to get the exact number of days apart from each other. He faced them 19 days apart. There was 2 starts in between there. And, you see a guy a second time. They got 10 hits in the first game against them this season. So they got their hits, but he went 6 innings. He went 5 innings. Had 5 punch-outs. The next time out, when he faced them, he went 5 innings again, but they scored 5 runs. So teams make adjustments. Pitchers make adjustments. That's why the regular season doesn't necessarily always coincide with what's going to happen in the postseason.
And also, in general, with a series like this, and really with a postseason like this, I guess aside from the Dodgers dominating, it's been quite unpredictable. Kevin Pillar the other day said to expect this series to go against whatever you're thinking. We've got a clip,
it has.
I think.
And nobody can win at home. Remember when I keep saying home field advantage in baseball is the most overrated thing ever? Nobody can win at home in baseball. I'm telling you, it's a lot of times it's better to be the road team. There's just less distractions, less things on your plate. And we've seen it so far in the LCS. The road teams are 5-0.
That's true. Less tickets to hand out, too. Do we have the clip of KP? We can show it real quick. KP, we both love Omaha Steaks. My latest. That's not it.
That was KP and his protein. While he was bulking up, he was on the bulk, bro.
One more.
I think this series just has funkiness written all over it. This just feels weird to me. This just feels like there's going to be a series where if you try to predict that what's going to happen, if you're betting on the favorites to win, it just feels weird. And I think the Blue Jays are not down and out. This is coming from experience, someone that was down 2-0 in a 7-game series in an ALCS. But if you just can figure out a way to get that series back home, you got to love getting back home. So they just got to figure out a way to win 2. They don't have to win all 3. I would feel confident them coming back 3-2, down 3-2, back home to Toronto in front of the best home crowd in baseball. And I mean, from there, anything can happen, but I don't think they're out. I just think there's something weird going on in this series where if you try to predict what's going to happen, the opposite's going to happen.
Good stuff, KP. Good call. All right, let's step aside. We are going to get to Zack Scott to try and sort out all of the manager openings in baseball and the lack of GM opening. KP, we both love Omaha steaks. My latest order, 6 private reserve filet mignons. It sounds bougie because it is. They were fantastic. And also 1.5 pounds of jumbo cooked shrimp with a big initial discount and then an additional $35 off with the code FOUL. You have been a long time Omaha Steaks guy too.
Yeah, back in college, I would always order steaks. I'd put them in my freezer. And that's the reason I bulked up, is because I always had fresh steaks in my freezer ready to go.
Delicious protein. Get after it, okay? It is the best in the biz. If you're ordering steaks online, you can save big with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their early Black Friday sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code FOUL at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com. Promo code FOUL at checkout. Back for a couple minutes, and then we'll talk to Zack Scott. We went over this a lot yesterday. They actually had the end of season press conference today for the Yankees. A couple notes. Aaron Judge will not need surgery, so that's good news. Aaron Boone said he's going to take some time off and continue to do strengthening things and rehab stuff. Carlos Rodon had a bone spur removed, so he's not going to throw for 8 weeks, but sounds like he should be ready to go in spring training. Anthony Volpe will not be ready for spring training, and it sounds like he won't be ready for the start of the season. He cannot swing at all for 4 months. He can't dive, so he's going to be pretty limited with the shoulder after the surgery. The debate yesterday, AJ, was me against Kratz and Toddfather. I think they need to explore other shortstop options at this point, despite the shoulder injury excuse. The season looked very much the same from a bat perspective this year compared to the prior 2 years. I know the defense took a big step back, but the bat's not there.
It's been the same for every year he's been there. It's been just around 6 something OPS every time and under 100 OPS plus. He's not even average offensive player. I know he has moments, but yeah, I think you have to explore all options if you're the Yankees. You haven't won in a long time. Let's not forget. It's been since 2009. So we're going on 16 years. That's a long, long time, long drought for the Yankees. So I think you have to be open to anything and everything. You know, they're kind of stuck. I think Bellinger's already said he's going to opt out. You know, you're kind of stuck because what do? You know, you have the Stanton and Judge, and then you have Fried. You got Cole coming back. Listen, their starting pitching could be awesome next year, right? But you got to fill some other holes. And if you can some team will take Volpe and give you an option, I'll do it.
Yep, I'm with you, man. Zack Scott is here, former MLB executive. And, Zack, I'm going to let you do the intro because, I see you on TV. And you've got a lot of action going on. I love catching your tweets explaining more about the game. But how do you introduce yourself when you're at a function these days?
Yeah, I definitely have been pursuing a lot of different paths. So, I focus right now on my business, Four Rings, which is evolving and has a lot of different paths. So it started as something where I consult for sports operations across all sports. I now do leadership executive coaching with individuals, launching some group programs for leadership for new and emerging leaders in sports and out of sports. And most recently, and what's been a lot of my focus lately has been, I got into the representation side. I partnered with a guy named Neil Glassberg, who's been representing NHL coaches and executives for 15 years very successfully. And he wanted to grow into the baseball side of things because, as I've learned from talking to people, especially in other sports, executives and coaches are underrepresented. They don't have agents like they should in baseball. And so I think it's something baseball has been behind in, and I want to help. And I think I offer a different perspective than kind of someone from the typical player agent path, because I've been in the front office. I've, if you're someone that's a candidate for one of these, many managerial jobs, I've interviewed over 20 people for managerial jobs, designed managerial processes. So I think I'm uniquely positioned to help people out to prepare for those things and hopefully get those opportunities. And similar with GMs, I've probably helped people prepare for about a dozen interviews with different teams. And, most of the credit goes to them, but most of the people I helped over the years were either finalists or got those GM jobs. So I'm always trying to help people in sports, especially. And that's one way that I think I can do it now, where it's kind of like a hybrid between an agent and an executive coach.
All right. Well, then that leads me to the perfect lead to my question. First of all, of course, coaches and GMs and everything are underrepresented because Major League Baseball wants it that way, because then they don't have to pay them as much as they should be worth. So, of course, guys are like, oh, I don't need an agent. If I get an agent, they might not hire me. Yeah, because teams, listen, I don't know this, but I'm assuming teams have told guys before in the past, if you hire an agent, we might not do this because he's going to ask for more. I mean, that firsthand. So I could be wrong on that, but I think that's probably happened to somebody in the past. But why? You mentioned all the openings, manager opening. There are hardly any GM openings. Do the owners not want to fire their GM? And how the heck do GMs always sell their owners on, oh, well, it's not my player. I need another 5 years. Oh, wait. Oh, those 4 years. But no, we have a new group coming. I need more, 5 more. Like, how do GMs do it? I want to know, because I'd love to be a GM. I could just keep selling an owner 5 more years, 5 more years, 5 more years. Keep giving me a raise and keep doing whatever.
Well, if you think about it, the GM is positioned better to have more interactions with the owner, right? Like, that's the person the owner talks to the most. It's not the manager. It's not really anyone else in the organization. So that could lead to, a negative relationship if you're not very good at your job as a GM, but you have so many opportunities. When I was with the Mets, I talked to Steve Cohen almost every day. That's how he called me almost every morning before he needed to get to day trading on the market. And so I knew that's how my day was going to start. So there were those opportunities to have those conversations that managers just don't have. And, I do think, though, we've seen 10 openings either in season or now at the end of the season. And that's a lot. I mean, I don't know if I can remember that many at one off season. But if you look at it, it's all, if you look at it individually, it's like 4 of those guys walked away. Well, 3 of them walked away to maybe retire. 1 of them had health issues. 2 of them were GM and manager changes. So that's 6 right there. So I think the ones that are really interesting are the ones that are based on performance. You could say Buster Posey knew in a job it wasn't his manager that he hired. So I don't believe. So it's, he wants to have someone that's his guy and build that relationship. So that makes some sense. But Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Minnesota, obviously it's because they haven't performed. And I would think that, it's probably not a good sign for some of those GMs that it's typically the first domino to fall can be the manager. And I'll take Pittsburgh, for example, because I've worked with Ben Cherington in the past, both in Boston and with consulting in Pittsburgh. And, Ben's someone that doesn't pass the buck generally. So I'm sure he did not want to make a change because he believes that, he's very accountable and believes that, if it doesn't work, then that's a big part of it is a failure on him, right? That he hired this person and it's not working out. But he also recognizes sometimes it is time for a new voice. But then you see the president of the club come out and say, we got to make the playoffs next year. I mean, it almost came off as an ultimatum. So, unfortunately, like Ben may be in the sights, right? He may have a target on his back now that the manager's changing. So, I think it's all circumstantial, but yeah, you're right. It's a lot easier to put it on the manager. And I think oftentimes we see it that it's the manager first. And if you hire another person, it doesn't work out, all of a sudden it becomes that bullseye on the GM's back.
All right, all these managerial interviews, how are they differing from organization to organization? You just said some teams underperformed, Some teams are in a winning window now. Some teams probably don't really care if they ever win from an ownership standpoint. How do these managerial openings, how do the interviews go, and how do they differ?
Well, obviously I'm not inside the walls of all these interviews that go on, but I've been on the other side of them with not just, it's been one organization that I was with the Red Sox, that we did all these different managerial hirings, but it was different GMs often. We'd switch GMs every 4 years, it seemed like. So I did get slightly different processes where they're valuing certain things, but it's a very intense process where there's a lot of questions. You typically have a long script of questions that you want to ask in different areas, and you just want to see, like, what are their views, what is their vision for how they do things in certain ways, how do they want to build a staff, what kind of culture are they going to and create in the clubhouse, how do they think through things tactically, how do they use information in their process when they're making decisions, when they're making out the lineup, what tools do they want to help them make those decisions, what people do they want in that conversation. You're really trying to gauge how this person would be in this role. It's just like any other job. What's their vision, and how prepared are they? Are they showing you those traits that you want in your manager? And preparation's a big one. I've done interviews where I was shocked at how unprepared certain candidates were for managerial interviews, and clearly knew, like, this isn't going to go very far. Like, you got to be ready to have put a lot of thought into how you would be in that role and how you'd run the clubhouse, how you'd want to do things, and what kind of support would you be looking for. And what level of interaction is helpful to you from the front office, from your other coaches. I think it's a lot of those things that you want. I'm sure some GMs go into it with preconceived notions about what they want out of their manager, and a lot of times I would recommend people just be themselves and do what they truly believe in as the candidate, and it may not be a fit, and it's not necessarily a personal thing with that candidate. It just might be, we're not matching up, we're not aligned on kind of how we're viewing this role and how it would work on a day-to-day basis.
Zack, I got to go back to what you said about the Pirates. Yes, they said they have to make the playoffs this year, but Ben Cherington's been there for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. And he's been through different managers, and he's been through different waves of guys coming through. And I just wonder, is he next? Like you said, I mean, because he did have Shelton, and now he's at Don Kelly. And I think I don't know if he hired Shelton or whoever was before Shelton, he had too. So, at what point, and I'm just using Ben Cherington because you brought him up, but how many managers do most GMs and executives get before, hey, maybe you're the wrong person to choose this next guy in line?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule to that, but I think it's dependent on those conversations. What have you articulated that you believe will work both in the short and long term for your organization? And they're a team, sure, they have financial constraints. I do think every team, has constraints that they can embrace and realize, okay, if we're going to have Tampa or Cleveland, you have the similar constraints where we're going to be really aggressive in churning our roster as the approach that like Tampa takes, for example. But there's different approaches to handling that, navigating that world, given those constraints. So I think it's up to, what you set as kind of how we're going to do things, and then how you execute that in those conversations you're having with the owner, for them to say, I still believe in this person, that they're going to come through, that they're learning from the things that worked and didn't work, that they're adaptable and trying to take a different approach to get to where we want to be. And so I think there's a lot of that. It's really about, how things are going. Obviously, we're a results driven world, and from our seats, we're looking at from the outside looking in, that's all we can judge. We don't know what conversations are going on, how someone goes about their work. And that's really for the people inside, like the owner, to judge, is this going to work? Do I believe in this person anymore going forward? And that's any GM. It's not specific to Ben. We're just using him as an example. But I think, they're not getting results. Why are they not getting results? Is it because decision making's poor? Is it because other things factored in? Do they need more time? They've obviously produced a lot of really good pitching talent. I think for the first time in a while, they have really good position players in their minor leagues, but at some point you got to see that turn into major league results. And, at this point for them, it's probably, do we believe that we're positioned better to get those position players to the big leagues, have a more well-rounded team, and start really competing in that division?
All right. I want to go to one of your tweets about Pete Alonso. Very creative word soup you gave us, but word salad. But you said, looks like he may be back with the Mets on a short-term deal after he once again overplays his hand in the market. Rinse and repeat, Alonso. Why do you think this will happen again? Because history says Boris has these guys that have done this, Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, and it's turned into a big deal, kind of a weird, bigger deal, but eventually they get their cash. Why do you feel like it would be different for Pete?
You know, obviously that's tongue in cheek with that whole tweet, but I do think there's a real risk, mostly with Scott Boras clients, of overplaying your hand because the formula with Scott is kind of always the same, right? It's ask for the moon, so you get people kind of off their maybe lowball vision of a player before they start really negotiating, and it works a lot at the like aggregate level, right? The portfolio level, portfolio of his players, right? So that's a good business model for him. He's been very successful. But in individual cases, sometimes it doesn't fit. And I think with Pete in particular, he's in a better spot than he was a year ago in a lot of ways, right? He had a much better year after showing 2 years of decline and people wondering, is this going to be continuing? So he breaks that narrative, which is huge. He's, got great career numbers, but he is a year older. He is in a position that, for whatever reason, whether you agree with it or not, is valued differently. There isn't this long history. Vlad Guerrero just maybe changed that. I don't know. I think that was a lot of unique circumstances that worked in his favor, especially with Toronto really struggling to get people to take their money. And so it probably resulted in an overpay for a great player, but not aligned with any other comparable players or market. So I think, it's a good market for him because there's not a lot of talent on the market. There are some high-end guys, but it thins out pretty quickly. But on the other side of that coin is that means there aren't a lot of teams that have as many holes if their players aren't becoming free agents. So it only takes 2 or 3, it doesn't take much to get the bidding up there. I just think that there's a real risk that if there's not an adjustment made based on the last time you did it, and then you risk having the same outcome. Now, like you pointed out, sometimes Scott has made that adjustment. So I think, part of it was that's what they're saying. What's out there publicly doesn't necessarily reflect how they're approaching it internally on Scott's side. So it could change. But I do think he's the type of player that fits into this demographic of he's probably a DH for the future because he's not getting any younger and he's already, if people look at metrics today and they see that he's at the bottom of, first base metrics, he does some things well, but he's not that mobile. There's other things he doesn't do well. And I think that there's a real risk that he's limited. And we rarely see a great market for DHs, but, maybe he is that exception. Maybe he is that JD Martinez that we signed to a large deal back, several years ago in Boston. So.
Well, you mentioned Pete, but Alex Bregman did the same thing, right? Cody Bellinger has done the same thing for a couple years. As a GM and a front office person, do you just say, man, if we can just keep signing these guys to 1-year deals, it's great for us. I know every agent wants multi-year deals, but man, they're, as front office, you're just thinking, oh, we'll just keep doing this 1 year at a time. And if they keep they have a great year, good. They opt out, we try again. If they don't have a great year, we'll keep them and maybe we'll get a better year the second year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of the today's GMs are very risk averse, and that is the biggest way to kind of paralyze your club is to give out too many long-term big, top of the market deals. It is an auction in free agency. So generally by definition, you're usually the highest bidder, which means relative to the rest of the industry, you're overvaluing the player, right? So if you do too many of those and really hurt your flexibility, that's really the only way a big market team can paralyze themselves and put themselves in a bad position long-term. So I think there's a lot of fear of that a lot of general managers have. But the other side of it is if you don't bring in proven impact talent, you have another kind of risk. It maybe is more, something you can navigate more because it doesn't totally tie up your payroll, but it's still a risk that you're not good enough. So I could see teams taking a hybrid approach. Like if I'm in, David Stearns' shoes, I'm looking at it as, maybe I go out and try to get, be aggressive early in the market and go get a first baseman that's a little better defender, a little bit more of a well-rounded player, not the impact of Pete Alonso offensively. And then I wait out Pete Alonso and maybe he's in the mix first base DH if the market comes back to us, because that's the other thing with Scott is there's a timing issue a lot of the times. Unless it's like the Juan Soto's of the world, the absolute top market that everyone's in, sometimes you have to wait a long time. We had to do that with JD Martinez. We got aggressive with Mitch Moreland early on a good value deal and then focused our energy on JD Martinez, which is risky that we put all our eggs in that one basket, but it ended up working out. We waited it out and we got it done.
How are GMs going to handle this offseason, knowing that most likely the lockout's coming? The lockout is looming, and teams don't know what contract statuses will look like. Are we going to see something on either end of the spectrum that's crazy because of this looming?
Yeah, I think that you see, the way most teams, and whenever I've been involved with a team during a time of financial uncertainty, which has been COVID, which has been the economy of 08, 09, kind of taking a hit in, the overall economy, and owners getting cautious, they almost always go to a place of caution, even a big market team like the Red Sox, where it was, we don't know. Are people going to go to baseball games now that the economy is so tough? Are we going to bounce back from this? Are we going to bounce back from COVID? Are people going to be comfortable when it's time to come back? Are we going to bounce back from a lockout? I think those are real questions. So they may be fine giving out 1-2 year deals, but hard to project how a contract that's longer than that's going to impact them financially when they don't know the financials. We see the same thing with the teams that are affected by the uncertainty of where their local TV revenues are coming from the RSN, bankruptcy issue that happened. Those teams tend to pull back on spending. I think other teams should look at it as an opportunity. If you have money, then it's like, okay, maybe the market's going to be a little suppressed, and there's an opportunity for us to get some deals because we have the ability to take a little bit more financial risk. So I think that's the way I would always look at it from a big market team. Was 08, 09 is a good example, because in Boston we just tightened up. We didn't want to spend. We were afraid of not knowing how the economy was going to respond. Once it bounced back, we overcorrected by overspending on guys like Carl Crawford, Adrian Gonzalez, and then that put ourselves in a bad spot. But that was because, we haven't spent money in a couple of years. Now let's be aggressive. If we instead had been more aggressive during that, when the rest of the league was cautious, we may have gotten some good deals, and then not been in a market where everyone was ready to spend their money because the economy did bounce back.
It's funny. Players are going to be like, I'll backload my contract if it's a 7-year deal right now. No problem. Last one for you, Zach. So I wanted to ask you about a question that revolves around postseason trends, and specifically on the NLCS. It's a two-parter, but it revolves around the Dodgers and the Brewers. One is your take on if the Dodgers beating the Brewers and maybe even winning the World Series actually affects how small market owners are pissed off and fight even more maybe for a salary cap, which is quite obvious that they want one. The second part is how big market teams take this postseason. And I'll use the Mets as an example. They have somewhat publicly stated they don't want to go after these big horse long-term contracts for starters. And then, look at what the Dodgers are doing. The Mets could have bought up a rotation quite like that. So your take on that series and how it permeates through the rest of the industry.
Well, I definitely think the people that, the owners of teams that already aren't happy with the way it works, the system and that's currently in place, and they tend to be mid to low market teams, of course they're going to use it, right? If the Dodgers win, it's like, see, this is not sustainable. No one else has a chance. But meanwhile, we see a lot of other teams that normally aren't there in these Final Four teams. So I definitely think that's a possibility, that's kind of making them feel stronger in their argument and they dig in further. But the Dodgers, to me, the lesson is that they do a lot of things really well. And so you could go out and just outspend everybody, but then the puzzle pieces don't fit well together. They do a good job. They do, they signed someone like Mookie Betts, who's a very selfless guy. I was very fortunate to get to be around him and hear him talk to other players about hitting. And he's someone that most superstars aren't willing to go back to a position that, quite honestly, he moved off of because he had the yips in the minors. So that's pretty amazing that he could go back all these years later and start playing shortstop. And that kind of selflessness and team first mentality is what they have. And they're usually more fundamentally sound than a lot of other teams. So I think that's part of the lesson. Sure, they spend a lot, but before they spent a lot, they were always contending for world championship teams. They do a lot of things well. That's why they're a model organization. And I think in the case of the Mets, yeah, they got to be careful. The Mets, if they go crazy spending this offseason or not, they're still going to have a huge payroll next year. It's just, obviously the Soto signing and Lindor contract and other things. So they're already, before you sign anybody, pretty high up there in spending. So I don't think they'll ever be accused of not spending a lot. But, once you start, like I said before, you start adding big contracts like a Juan Soto on top of the Lindor contract as he's getting deeper into his 30s, you start compounding your risk. And so I'm sure, David Stern's coming from a mid-market, small market team, really. is very aware of that there is some risk. It is how Mets teams of the past got in trouble by, of spending high dollars in the day. Obviously Bobby Bonilla is the one that's always brought up because he's still getting paid, and then getting paralyzed and unable to kind of get out of that, and then having a long cycle of losing. And that's what they want to avoid. They want to, have sustainable success like everyone does and compete year after year. So it's a sweet spot that they're going to try to find, but they're going to spend money no matter what because they're already there.
All right. So what I've heard you say, Zach, is owners are averse to risk. Okay. And by the way, if the Dodgers win, I think it's more of an indictment on the other teams that you need to spend to win. So I totally disagree with people saying, oh, it's the end of baseball if the Dodgers win. No, the owners that don't want to spend, they're going to use it because they don't want to spend their money. And they're happy making the revenue sharing in the Pittsburghs and we know the teams. We don't need to go through in the Rays and those teams. Okay. But what I don't understand is, and you've been in the front office, why do owners talk themselves out of signing good players? There are plenty of good players that can help you win. And I feel like we hear more about, well, we don't want to do this because the 5th year might hurt us. Yeah, but we might win 2 World Series in those first 4 years. That's the way I think the Dodgers look at it, and even the Phillies, even though they haven't won. Certain teams, they look at it and say, well, we could win. Some owners are more positive, like we can do this. And some owners are more, oh, well, man, I don't want to have to spend that money. We might not win. Is there a different mindset for different owners and how they go about just saying, like, screw it, I'm going for it? Like, I'll use Washington. Right? The learners were like, screw it, we're going all in, and they won. And it made it all worth it. Now, it sucked because it was during COVID, and they didn't get to celebrate and do a lot of the stuff, but they said, oh, screw it, we're going to win. Right? The Illiches tried it in Detroit, and it didn't work out. They got to the World Series, never won. But are there different owners that are just more like looking for reasons not to sign players?
I think, like any human being, we tend to be wired towards the negative, thinking of the negative. What's the downside risk without giving enough weight on the upside, right? And so I think sometimes what you mentioned Detroit, similar person and situation in Boston when we won in 2018, right? Like we had a great young core, so we decided to be really aggressive in spending to support that core so we could go for it. And on the other end of that, yeah, there's risk that maybe you go too far and you have to kind of wear it for a few years before you're back to where you want to be. It is hard to sustain success beyond a 5-year window. It really is. So I think there's that part of it where you get reactionary depending on where you're at, and you get a little emotional. These guys, been around them. They can be emotional even when some of them seem like they're not those types of people. So I think that's part of it. But I also think the changes to, the rules that it's easier to get in the playoffs. Like you can be close to a 500 team and get in the playoffs. It almost creates, with parity or more opportunity, creates less urgency for people to go for it, whatever that may mean to different clubs, because we may be able to sneak in and then get hot and win a World Series. Some of these guys think it's almost very arbitrary who's winning. I think it's actually good for a team like the Dodgers to win, to say, no, it's not. Like, you can build a better team if you start convincing yourself like, it doesn't really matter. It's all kind of random, which I've heard on the record some owners say that. John Henry said that not that long ago. And to me, it's like, well, that's not accurate. And that's not how we operated when we did win in Boston. So I do think when you start trying to water things down a little bit, you don't have kind of the super teams that you may have had in the past during like Yankee dynasties and other teams that were like really separating themselves from other clubs. That's kind of what happens is if you look at it, it's like, besides the Dodgers, there's, Toronto, Seattle teams we don't usually see. Milwaukee's going deeper than they often do. So I think it's easy to look at that and say, look at those 3 teams and focus on and be like, oh, we don't need to go crazy. It's just kind of going to change all the time who's in there. So, Texas and Arizona being in the World Series a couple years ago. I think that's unfortunately what happens is it starts disincentivizing people being more aggressive.
Spot on. Great answer. Really, really on the same page on that one, Zach. Yeah. Oh, it's a crapshoot. Everything's crapshoot. No,
Yeah.
It's not. Come on. If you watch the game every day, that's not true at all. And you can build for the regular season, build a little bit differently for the postseason with your plans, which I think the Dodgers do well. We can talk for hours. I know you got to jump. We got to jump, but great to have you on. We always enjoy this. Give Zach a follow at Zack Scott Sports to see everything going on in his world. And I hope you get those salaries raised for the coaches and the GMs. I'm all about it. Thank you, Zach.
That's right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You too. That's Zack Scott. We are expecting Sam Miller soon, maybe next segment. Let's hit this week's Arena Club slab pack pull. We opened a Ruby. We went big.
We did.
$250 pack.
That was, you know what? The nerves got me. I think it was so exciting because the motion, it waits about 4 or 5 seconds for the card to come up. The card that I got was over $300, a prospect from the Mariners. And for me, I love the card. I thought it was great. And guess what? I sold it back.
Yep.
And now I got a little more money, and now I can go buy another one. You have to wait a couple minutes afterwards. And this is the excitement of the whole thing. Put your money where your mouth is and have fun with Arena Club.
You can see that big smile on Todd Father's face. Lazaro Montes, who's supposed to be good. He's Baseball America top 3. He's in the Mariners organization. But Todd Father sometimes thinks prospects are suspects.
Sometimes.
So he's going back to the well, and we'll see what he gets next time. Use the code FOUL, FOUL, at arenaclub.com/foul if you want to get in on the first slab pack experience and get 20% off or 20% off your first card purchase. Hey, look at this tweet from Barry Bloom over at Sportico. He said, every team in baseball can afford to do this. Hell, the A's and Rays pocket $70 million in revenue sharing every season. He's talking about big signings. Most owners don't want to be competitive. Some do. When fans try to hold their feet to the fire and boycott games, they lose the team. Like Oakland, he's a senior writer over at Sportico. They know what teams are making, and they are holding them accountable. But it's not like anything necessarily happens. I know we talk about this a lot in the offseason, but it is a real thing.
Let me ask you all this. When a team makes the playoffs, how much money do you think a team makes for a home game? I don't know. I've asked this, and it's not given out to the public, right? Which I don't understand. Why can't we find out? We can find out how much revenue a team generates, but how can we not find out per game how much a team in the Major League Baseball makes? I mean, I'm thinking it's got to be 5 to 10 million at least, if not more. I mean, I'm just looking at ticket sales. I know what tickets cost, parking, concessions. I mean, I'm just going low here. Let's say they make 20 million per playoff home game. So that means the Mariners this year they're going to make at least 150 to 100 million extra dollars because they made it to the second round.
I think 20 is a safe number, and we're going to go with that since they won't make it public. 20 is a safe number. Just keep in mind that some of that goes to players, a chunk of that goes to the league and other owners and all that, right? So there's some splitting that goes on. So let's say even that they pocket 10 per playoff game, because also there's merch that you can count. There's all kinds of things. Let's say it's 10 per playoff game. It's a lot of money. It's FT presented by Fox One. Coming right back. Hey, we've got Sam Miller joining us right now. Check out his Substack, Pebble Hunting, and I'm going to ask him about an article in there right off the jump here. You've seen Sam for years also in the past as editor-in-chief of Baseball Prospectus. Sam, great to have you on, first off. Thank you for the time. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. You know, I've been a big fan of Erik Kratz since his rookie year, so I'm kind of excited to be here.
Since his rookie year? Wait, hold up. Since his rookie year, you've been tracking him on the prospect scale?
Oh, man. I don't know how much you remember, but 2012 Erik Kratz was a phenomenon. And yeah, I mean, I remember learning what he drove that year. He was driving a 98 Honda Accord with 190,000 miles on it. And I thought, that's my guy.
Not quite 190,000, but yes, it was a white Honda Accord. And also, Sam, 2012, yes, it was a phenomenon. But I actually made my debut in 2010. I just never got enough at bats in 10 or 11 till I got to 2012.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I do type in Erik Kratz white Honda Accord and it pops up with multiple articles, which is kind of crazy. Although I think the mileage off means that some stories were embellished in the past. So we might have to do some research on that, but it adds to the story. Anyway, I'm going to start you with the beginning of games looking very similar. So can you tell us about the research you've done on first pitches and how it is playing out here in the postseason?
Yeah. So, you know, it used to be that the first pitch of the game was always a fastball. It was usually down the middle, and it was usually taken. And it still is usually a fastball. It's usually down the middle. And a few years ago, hitters started to swing at that pitch, and they're doing like huge damage on it. Probably the best way of putting this in perspective is that in 2010, there were 6 homers on the first pitch of the game. This year, there have been 53 homers on the first pitch of the game. The swing rate has been going up pretty steadily for the last 7 years, and it's now about triple what it was 7 or 8 years ago. And this has just been really fascinating to me because pitchers aren't adjusting. They're still just as predictable. And I think we all kind of know that, there are no fastball counts anymore. 3-1 count. Well, it's as likely to be an off-speed pitch as a fastball. But the first pitch of the game remains the one super predictable moment in baseball. It's 94% fastballs. It's a higher strike rate than any other count. It's not even as hard. They usually throw a somewhat softer fastball. And pitchers are not adjusting as fast as hitters are. And so it creates this one moment that I'm always excited to see of will the batter do damage on the first pitch of the game? And there have been 2 homers in the LCS round already out of 5 games on that pitch, which delights me. And I'm looking forward to the next one.
Sam, how much of this, though, also includes foul balls? Is it just, obviously, if you look at first pitch numbers, and I swung in more for, as many first pitches as anybody did, but if you foul them off, it doesn't count it, right? So it's only when the ball is put in play. So yes, can you do more damage on that? Yes, but also pitchers, and I'm going to tell you this from experience, I think Kratz will back me up, they don't want to throw a first pitch breaking ball because they say, if I come out and I dot one down and away and I get 1 pitch and 1 out, I'm off and rolling. Here we go. Right now, if the guy gets a hit, obviously it changes things because you don't make a good pitch. But to me, it was man, if you can just dot a fastball down and away for strike one, or, if you throw a sinker, sink one in and you get 1 pitch, 1 out, we're off to the races, baby.
Oh, I think when you're talking about any other batter in the game, that's definitely true. I'm talking specifically first pitch of the game. The first pitch to the first batter of the game. That's the pitcher's deep breath, get settled, figure out the mound, throw it down the middle, right? That's that moment where he doesn't think the batter is swinging and he's just going to get ahead with an easy strike one. And that's specifically the pitch that batters are jumping on now that they never used to jump on before. It used to be an automatic take. Now it's not an automatic take anymore. They're swinging a lot, and they're batters on the first pitch of the game this year slugged about 800. They're demolishing it. There's O'Neal Cruz only led off 60 games, and his slugging percentage is 20 points higher just because of what he did on the very first pitch of the game. So not 1-0 counts, not first pitch of the third inning. First pitch of the game raised his slugging percentage for the entire season by 20 points because he's getting fastballs right down the middle, and pitchers think he's going to take it, and he's not taking it. And they're not adjusting. It's hysterical to me that they're not adjusting because the game is so quick to adjust in everything else these days. But pitchers this year still 93, 94% fastballs right down the middle, usually not even their hardest fastball, bombs away.
But is that because the leadoff hitter is now a different player?
Definitely.
we're not putting that guy in who's going to work the at bat. We're not going to put that guy in that's going to, change things. Kyle Schwarber's led off quite a bit, not this year. Shohei Ohtani's leading off. There's dudes that are coming out looking to make the game 1-0.
That is absolutely true. That's I think that's probably what started the swinging going up in that situation, because you're right. In the, when you had I don't know, Luis Castillo leading off in the 2000s, you wanted him to take 7 pitches and maybe work a walk and give the batters after him a chance to look at the pitcher and all that. Nowadays, you've got your best hitter, Byron Buxton's leading off. You want him to do damage. And so they started swinging more and more when more power hitters got put in the leadoff spot. And the fact that pitchers are still throwing meatballs to those guys who are the most damaging batters in the lineup is really interesting. You look at 3-0 counts nowadays. 3-0 counts, we know, they don't want to get beat by a power hitter, so they're throwing 3-0 sliders, 3-0 changeups. But first pitch of the game, it doesn't matter. It's still fastball right down the middle.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about a guy that almost went 40-40? Juan Soto. If he leads off, Are we taking too much into this? Or we talk about in the postseason, the team that scores first has a better chance of winning.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you look at, I think if Juan Soto were leading off, he would get that pitch and he would do damage. I mean, Juan Soto is a very patient hitter, but he's also aggressive in the strike zone. Shohei Ohtani hit 2 or 3 first pitch of the game homers this year, slugged 800. No, slugged 1,000. Slugged 1,000 on the first pitch of the game. So he's looking to do damage. Byron Buxton hit 3 homers, slugged 850 on the first pitch of the game. Fernando Tatis swung at the first pitch of the game almost half the time. He's looking to do damage on the first pitch of the game. This is obviously not a storyline that lasts very long. The game starts and within 10 seconds, you already know whether the first pitch of the game was hit for a home run. But it's really interesting how many games are starting with like fireworks, explosion. And I think that's is that part of why teams are willing to put their power hitters in the front of the lineup to have, non-traditional power hitting leadoff hitters? I don't know. I don't know if the fact that they're getting fed strikes is a factor there, but you certainly see kind of a mismatch between the pitcher's goals in that spot. The pitcher wants to get established. He wants to find his footing, see what's working. He's not looking to get creative on the first pitch or the first couple pitches of the game. He just wants to get settled. And you put someone out in the lineup who can hit the ball 470 feet, and it creates this like immediate mismatch, this immediate advantage for the offense. And this year was the record for most first pitch of the game home runs. It's the second highest slugging percentage ever on first pitch of the game. It's the highest swing rate ever on first pitch of the game. And so far, pitchers haven't adjusted at all. I'm looking to see like the Blue Jays, the Mariners and the Brewers have both allowed first pitch of the game home runs in the LCS. So they know that leadoff hitter is going to be swinging. And so I will be interested to see whether they adjust. My guess is they won't. It's not something that anybody's adjusting on yet.
Sam, I'm going to ask you a macro postseason / World Series question. I know you're good at this stuff and you'll have a take. Should MLB go back to the 1-year trial session of making the World Series happen a little bit quicker if the LCSs end quick? It might not be a factor this year. And last year was the first time they were going for it. And it wasn't really covered much because it didn't end up happening. I think they were close to that deadline and it just went over. So the World Series ended up happening at its normal time period. Ken Rosenthal talked about this on his Fair Territory show the other day. So I figured I would throw it at you. This August, they decided it's not happening this year. There could be business decisions behind the scenes of, okay, we want it to start on these days and lay out this way. But for baseball, I'm assuming you would think we should start it within a few days and not potentially 5+ days later.
It could be set. It's potential that tomorrow will settle both of these series. And then the World Series doesn't start for a whole week. I would say that the fact that teams are always talking about what a disadvantage it is to have a week-long layoff is a pretty big factor. I guess I've always been a little skeptical that the layoff discourse of like whether teams are disadvantaged by having too much time off. I guess I've always thought it was probably a little overblown, but teams are pretty consistent. Like batters do not like falling out of that routine. They don't like taking 5 or 6 days off. And you don't want the World Series to be a situation where teams feel like they're going into it cold or disadvantaged for any reason. So for that reason, it does seem like being more nimble with the schedule and just figuring out a way to start it 2 games after the last game is settled would just, like, from a competitive standpoint, it'd be a lot better. I know that the league has a lot of people who, like, their primary interest is broadcast ratings, and there are people whose interest is in, booking hotels, and there's a lot of different people with a lot of different jobs in the game who have different interests. But no, I mean, if it happens that both of these LCSs are settled by tomorrow, or if only one is, I guarantee you that there's going to be a ton of discussion this time next week about, well, what did the other team do to stay fresh? How much of a disadvantage is it? Are they going to be rusty on the first game back? It doesn't really seem like a particularly fair way of doing things, given that this is a pretty consistent message coming out of teams that they don't want 6 days off in the middle of their postseason.
Well, I was on a team. We had.
Start again. Sorry, you were muted for a second.
Sam, I'm going to snap back at you here because here's the thing. I was on a team 20 years ago. We had time off and we kicked everyone's ass. I don't care about time off. It's postseason. Figure it out, right? The only teams that complain are the teams that lose. If you lose, you go, wow, we had time off, right? The Dodgers had all kinds of time off last year. They won. They didn't complain once, right? Now, when they lost the year before, they're like, oh, we had too much time off, right? This year or last year, the Yankees and Dodgers, number one seeds, they had the time off. They won. They got to the World Series, right? This year, I look at it the same way. The teams who had the time off, they advanced. So I don't understand where the Brewers had time off. They won. They didn't complain about the time off. They were like, man, we're grateful we had those days off so we could get our pitching in order, right? And the thing is, you're saying like, oh, yeah, we need to go right away. The Super Bowl takes 2 weeks off. Nobody complains about the 2 weeks in the week in between there, right? It's just because the team that loses has to have something to blame. They can't look in the mirror and say, man, we just lost. We got beat. Oh, no, we had too much time off. It's an easy excuse. I hate it. It's stupid.
I am personally glad to hear you say that because, again, I think that discourse has always been overblown. I try to defer, when I hear a lot of professionals tell me what their job is like. I try not to say, no, that's not how your job is. I know better than you because they do the job and they do say it a lot. Like they say it a lot. A lot of people in the game will say it. So I believe that it makes people uncomfortable. But, in the back of my mind, deep in my heart, do I basically agree with you, AJ? Yeah, basically. Like it does seem like everyone's probably having a good time getting their bodies in order. At this stage of the season, everybody's got aches and bruises that they would like to have a couple of days to heal as well. So the data for this so-called layoff curse being real is mixed at best. That said, again, like players say it, I don't want to call them liars. I believe it makes them uncomfortable. And I think they would probably, like if you were voting, probably the players would want to start a day or two later, right? If you were voting at this stage of the season.
Here's my question. Of course, players are going to say that because it's kind of the thing to say, right? Again, if you ask Cal Raleigh after catching 135 games if he enjoyed the 5 days off before he got to catch 5 more games in the DS, and now he's going to catch every game in this LCS, which could go a bunch of games, right? Yeah. Do you want the days off? Yeah. Do you want to stay hot? Absolutely. But I also think it's a mindset. If your manager goes into it and says, look, the days off aren't going to affect us. We're just going to go out and play instead of, oh man, we have this time off. Like it was just a mindset. Like, hey, we got time off. Yeah. Great. We don't have time off. Okay. We'll figure it out. Right. And I think it's just all about a mindset of, oh no, whatever excuse we can find. And baseball players are 1, great at finding excuses, and 2, even better at complaining.
I'm with it. And I mean, I remember that 2005 run when, you guys swept the LCS, and it was, everybody agreed at that time that it was an advantage, like, everybody's rested. You get to sit back and relax while the other team has to keep fighting. And so I think you're probably right that like these narratives, a lot of times they come after the fact and they're whatever's convenient to explain what happens next.
Hey, Sam, last one for you. Another big picture question. We are in a copycat league, right? They look at what's going on often in the postseason and say, oh, let's do a little bit more of that. Owners, especially, since they're paying more attention and they might be jealous that their team is not involved. So what do you think the theme might be this year heading into the offseason based on what we have seen thus far? Do you think that starting pitching gets valued a little bit more because of the impact that it makes in the postseason? Do you think that contact comes into play a little bit more with the Blue Jays and Brewers, or anything else that we're missing?
Oh man, I think those are both really good possibilities. It's funny because copycat, you don't tend to see a lot of copycatting of the team that loses in the LCS, even though like that's also a successful season, right? Like they could have gone all the way. So you kind of have to see who's going to win the World Series before you know what message really gets amplified. I think that there is a lot of talk this year about the Brewers as a team that was able to play up because of a prioritizing fundamentals, also prioritizing hustle. For a lot of reasons, I think those two things have kind of fallen by the wayside in the last few years. They aren't seen as a priority in a lot of teams. And the fact that the Brewers were able to take this team that was basically hitting ground balls to the shortstop, but by hustling on every play, they were forcing a lot of errors, beating a lot of infield singles out. I think that's a pretty strong message that's coming out of the season. And I would expect that there's going to be a lot more talk about that coming out of clubhouses in the next couple years. But, the Brewers probably aren't going to win the World Series. So the answer is probably going to be something that the World Series winner does. I think that the fact that you can't really replicate what the Dodgers are able to do, but having so many starting pitchers has allowed them to outrun a lot of their flaws. Having starting pitchers that were handled pretty lightly during the regular season so that they're now healthy in the postseason, despite pretty much all of those guys having long injury histories, is something that I think people will be taking a look at. One of the big tensions in the game these days is how do you balance the regular season against the postseason? How much do you put into winning in the regular season versus leaving something in the tank for the postseason? And the Dodgers, I think, will really come out of this season being remembered as a team that sort of sleepwalked through the regular season, made roster decisions that weren't aimed at winning every game, left players on the IL maybe longer than they needed to so that they wouldn't be overused by the postseason, and didn't really prioritize, winning 110 regular season games, but rather prioritize being like the fully operational roster when October came. And it's worked. It's sort of like frustratingly worked. We watched this team kind of look bad throughout the regular season and now suddenly snap their fingers and they're dominating, and they might just win every game until the World Series is over. And I think that to the degree that teams can copy that might be something that gets talked about. Like basically the marginal value of a win in the regular season in a playoff system that's this deep is pretty low, whereas the marginal value of having your rotation healthy in October is pretty high. And the Dodgers might be the proof of that.
Yeah, good call. I even think about Trey Savage and how the Blue Jays made sure that he had plenty of pitches left, and the way that they built him up from A ball all the way to this point. I know it wasn't as flashy of a last start, but anyway, Sam, really appreciate it. Good stuff. Much more of this on Pebble Hunting, the Substack that you've been running for a minute. So for our fam, check it out. Appreciate you, Sam. Good talking to you.
You too.
Can I interest you in Surfshark VPN, which allows you to mask certain parts of your surfing around the web? Or let's say you're somewhere and you're like, I don't need this app to know where I am 24/7. That pops up on your phone all the time. Surfshark can help you out with that.
Privacy and protection. I love it.
Surfshark keeps your online activity private, and you can appear in a different location. That's where you can get help with the online services or apps that are constantly asking you where you are. Change or hide your virtual location and surf safely with Surfshark VPN. So go to surfshark.com/Fowler. Use code Fowler at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. A risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee is there for you, and you can secure your digital life with Surfshark VPN by hitting the link below for an extra 4 months of Surfshark. Don't let online threats catch you off guard. This has been your tech update. Keep your data safe and take control of your online security with Surfshark. Hey, Jed Hoyer spoke as he addressed the rest of the Cubs 2025. I'm confident we're going to have enough money to field a good team Talking about 2026, according to Spot Track, Cubs' total payroll allocation this season was $211 million, 10th in baseball. We obviously get some fans, AJ, that say we're a Cub hater show because you love them so much. And that is fair on your side. I actually think I give them a good chunk of credit. And I give Jed Hoyer credit this year for working with what he was given, but they're not operating like a big market team. They operate more like a bigger mid-market team.
No, they operate like a team that isn't the Cubs, is what they operate like. And by the way, Han Perdido, Cub fans, Han Perdido. Okay, that's my new slang. Every time anyone pisses me off, Han Perdido. But here's my thing. You're the Cubs. You sell out every single game. You have your own TV network. You have the whole area around Wrigley that you own. You are making so much damn money, and then your GM has to come out and say, we hope we have the money to field a good team. What are you talking about? Well, shouldn't even be a thing. Again, this goes back to my point. There's owners that want to win, and there's owners that just want to cash checks, right? The Ricketts one, 2016, Emus Catulli, okay? If you don't know what that means, look it up, Cub fans, because they had to take the sign down because it hurt your feelings too bad, okay? But listen, they're making enough money. They can spend whatever they want. They just don't want to because the Ricketts, they want to make money, and they're making a killing.
AJ, how much money are you making playing golf? None. They own a team. It's fun. Go win a championship.
We have reached the conclusion of our Pick Your Poison series, and we saved one that is a little bit difficult for last. We now have each team covered in the final four, and we will finish with the Los Angeles Dodgers. If your team was knocked out, we are going to try and make a case for you to root for the Dodgers. There are many people that are going to watch this clip and say, oh, I'm a Dodger fan. I love them. There are more people that are going to watch this clip and say, I'm a fan of the 29 other teams, AJ, and I consider the Dodgers the evil empire at this point because they're so successful and spend more than anyone else. But you can't do that in this segment. You have to tell people why they would love to root for LA to win again if their team isn't there right now.
It's good for baseball if the team that spends wins. It should put pressure on other teams to spend money. I know that the owners are going to argue that they don't because, we can't afford, but you can spend enough money to compete, okay? The Brewers, the Mariners, whatever team you want to name, the teams that made the Tigers, whoever, the Guardians, whatever. They can spend more if they want to, okay? But this is the argument right here. Star power. Star power. If you pick your star you want to like. Shohei, check. Mookie, check. Freddie, check. Will Smith, check. Yamamoto, check. Glasnow, check. Snell, check. I mean, Roki Sasaki, pick your star. Pick your star in baseball that you want to watch and you want to see. Most other sports wants the stars to win. For some reason, baseball fans don't believe in that. Put your stars on the biggest stage, right? The Dodgers have all the stars. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
I think my argument is based on the fact that your team just lost. You want to know how to have a winning team? Follow the Dodgers. You want to know what it looks like to have a team full of, like AJ said, stars? Do the little things. Base run the correct bunt play in a situation, execute those plays. But also, they're not a perfect team. They pick each other up. Tommy Edman almost yoinched the ball into the dugout at the end of that bunt game where the Phillies were coming back. Guess what? Freddie Freeman picked him up. Teoscar Hernandez dropped a fly ball in right field when Yamamoto's pitching against the Reds in the first series to tie the ball game up. Guess what? Yamamoto picked him up. These guys, yes, they're stars, but they play together as a team. And if you're a fan, they will accept you in. They want all the backing that they can get because they're like, we all back each other. Why not our fan base? So come on the train to Dodger Town.
Hey, how about the fact that the roster construction is leading to success as well? Is Kike Hernandez the best regular season player? Is Tommy Edman the best regular season player? Is Max Muncy the best regular season player? We can go on and on with quite a few winners that they have been able to identify and fit into the cog, and it's working for them. It's not like we're looking at this team, AJ, and saying they have the best player, regular season, WAR, all of that stuff at each position. They have quite a few superstars, like you mentioned, but it's not all around where you're looking at like the National League All-Star team.
No, but also, you're right. But they do a great job of also building depth, which is why they're the best team, is because they build enough depth in their organization, not only at the big league level, but in AAA. They have guys injured. They sign guys that are injured. They take chances on some guys, knowing they have the financial might, which is a huge positive for them. But also, I'm going to go back to my other point. The NFL, right? Everyone loves the Patriots and Tom Brady because he won all the Super Bowls, right? And NFL blew them up. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And you go to basketball and you have MJ with his three-peats, and you go to LeBron and Steph with their winning, right? And then you go to hockey with who they want to win, with the Panthers and Lightning, because Florida owns the NHL, right? And we own the Stanley Cup. But other sports wants these teams to win. For some reason, baseball fans, we can't have a repeat winner. It's been 25 years since we've had a repeat winner. This might be the chance, because this team is special because of all the things that they do correctly.
When you become a Dodgers fan, I do have to give you one piece of advice. Don't go to the games. There's too much traffic. Be a Dodgers fan who watches on TV, okay? So that's the best.
It's a really nice ballpark, though. I like that ballpark experience. It's fun. But yes, you need to get yourself off of work early or something. You got to get there really early. It is very
second best tailgating. Second best
tailgating in all of baseball? No.
No. In the playoffs.
What's left. Yeah. Because there's some other teams. Obviously, the Brewers have their own thing going, but there are a few other teams that have a nice parking lot setup where you can get a good tailgate going. Yeah, the teams that aren't in that whole like downtown experience where it's about parking, getting out, and then going to the other stuff that the owners have. It's about just, like Kansas City, when things are going right and they're in the playoffs, right? That's just a massive parking lot. So they've got some good tailgating action going on. One other thing to play off of the superstar component, AJ, is that we've barely seen Mike Trout in October. And that was a case for a while with the best player in our sport at the moment, who is Shohei Ohtani. It is fun to watch Ohtani, and he's a really interesting storyline. And for a long period of time during prime years, we didn't get to see him at all at the game's biggest stage. In fact, we rarely saw him play any meaningful games after like May. So I do want to appreciate that. And that again plays to the difference between baseball and other sports. And that's cool, because then we get to see stars emerge like Jorge Polanco being clutch, or Tommy Edman last year as an NLCS MVP. That's cool. But it's also cool to see the best players on the planet actually play in the biggest games. And you're right, we don't get enough of that. And that's just a product of our sport, which makes it both cool but tougher to market.
People don't understand how hard it is to make the playoffs in baseball. If you want to know, ask Mike Trout. Ask Shohei when he was with the Angels. Ask the Mariners how long. They've never made the World Series. Ask them how hard it is to win a World Series and to get to that point. It is really hard. And again, every other sport, they want their best players to be in it. Baseball, the last 2 years, they had the Yankees and the Dodgers last year with some of the best players in the world at their sport. This year, you got a shot at it again with whatever team makes it from the AL, and if the Dodgers make it from the NL, you're going to have some of the best players in the sport on the biggest stage where everyone's watching. So, yeah, it's been great for the game. I'm sorry. Look at the ratings. Look at the ratings for these games. They've been off the charts good. I'm sorry.
You can make a case that Paul Skeens is the best pitcher in baseball right now, and he's not participating.
They're going to make the playoffs, so they're going to make the playoffs or else. So remember, what did the Pirates say? We have to make the playoffs next year. Well, yeah, right. Okay.
Or else what?
Yeah.
Or else we won't spend any more money, and we'll trade Paul Skeens, and we'll trade Jared Jones, and we'll trade Bubba Chandler, and we'll trade Brian Reynolds. And we'll trade
to the Dodgers, which is why you should be a Dodgers fan, because you'll be able to see Paul Skeens soon.
I have one more at the finish line here. You might look at this team and this segment and be puking because you really don't like the Dodgers and you feel like life is unfair right now. The Dodgers have not been like this forever. 1988, they won a World Series. They didn't win another one until 2020. Some people didn't give them the same credit in 2020 because it was a COVID season. They didn't have to play a full marathon year. Okay, well then they won in 2024. So it's not like they've been darlings forever. They have been postseason darlings for a long period of time, but they haven't been able to get over the hump most of that time period. So I think it's important to keep that in mind in our sport. And just Google the name Frank McCourt if you want to go through a very recent era in Dodgers history where you were like, oh, they have a lot of resources and it's not working out for them. We also host a show called Baseball America Hot Sheet where we went over the other day hit plus and stuff plus in terms of talent in the minor leagues. Dodgers, number 1, hit plus prospects. Number 1, stuff plus prospects. I believe it was number 1 for both. So and if not, top 3. So here's my final thought process here. When we do have a salary cap for essentially the draft where you get a prospect amount of money pool that you spend on, and in the international draft, you have that too. Guess what? Dodgers are still winning. So it's not going to solve all your problem.
Don't Google Frank McCourt. It'll ruin your search.
BetMGM locks. Look at Pap go. Pap really had a session last night, getting the money line done with a blowout dub and hitting the over easy. Plus 325 on that banger. Rest of us went the other way, or Naylor didn't come through for you, Kratz, but let's try and turn the page. Oof. Postseason's been tough so far. We still have time, though. Besides Pap. Pap's good. AJ, you're pretty close to getting back to level. What do you have for us?
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. It's just look at where I ended. Just not how you start, it's how you finish. I'm going Glasnow over 5.5 punchies against the Brewers. The Shadows, Glasnow stuff. I think he'll be out there for a while. I think he gets to 7, 8, or 9. And then I'm going over 7.5 in the Blue Jays Mariners game. I think, whether it's Max or Castillo or whoever it is, I think they're going to, 7.5. I think this is like a 5-4, 6-3 game. I'm not saying who's winning. That gets me to plus 214. And just like that, bam, we back in the pluses.
Very nice. Kratz?
I'm going Kike Hernandez at plus 130, over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Kike just finds a way to get all of those every game. So Kike is going to cash it for us. Plus 130, win 130.
Very good. I think I can get mine in there. Over 7.5 runs in the Jays Mariners matchup. See if the ball's flying again. It was an easy over in the Game 3 matchup. And for me, Luis Castillo's numbers against the Blue Jays matter a little bit. I mean, they had a really nice approach against George Kirby. I can see them continuing that. And they've been road warriors. They're not phased on the road with their offense. Max Scherzer, you don't know what you're going to get. So I'll take the over in that one. The concern for me would be that the bullpen's are rested and they could be a force and cause a lot of swing and miss. So we don't see the contact like we saw in Game 3, but that's what I'm going with. So those are our picks. And then we'll swing back. Yeah, there you go. There's the board. A lot of variety for you. We'll swing back and do a quickie seg just to get ourselves back on track timing wise. Alert, alert, another post-game show coming your way. Game 3, NLCS, Brewers, Dodgers, live on the FT YouTube channel. I love this graphic. This is one of my favorites. I'm excited for it. We'll be live after the game. We've had big audiences. We'll do about 25, 30 minutes maybe, depending on how things play out. But we will definitely see you after Brewers, Dodgers. FT fam, be right back for Slap. Hey, we're back. While we have 2 minutes, I'd actually like to point out this day in FT playoff history, if I can. We had AJ in ALCS game 5 over 3, but a sack bunt, and you reached on an E1. You small ball man, you in that game.
Nope. You need to hear
No?
the story. You need to hear the story, though. That's not exactly what happened. So
Okay.
I actually hit a piss missile off Kelvin Escobar, and it hit him in the butt, and he ran over to tag me. And this is after, the strike 3 was off Escobar. There was a couple things that happened off Escobar, and he hated me so much. He went to tag me, and he had the ball in his bare hand, and he slapped me with his glove, and the ball was clearly in the other hand. And the umpires called me out, and I get to first, and Randy Marsh, I'm like, how? Because he actually threw the ball to first, and Erstad dropped it because he wasn't expecting him to throw it. And so they conferred, and they were like, no, he's safe because he had the ball in his hand. So that was the E1, and then Joe Creedy went on and did something and drove us all in, and whatever. That was the last of the perfect games, or the complete games that our pitchers threw. So, it wasn't just an E1. And by the way, people say I didn't bunt. I bunt it all the time. I'm happy to do it.
By the way, some of the people online like, why is AJ talking about bunting? Because the Tigers are never going to create a run on their own. I was actually shocked because usually the crowd is for a little bit more of the old school components of the game, and you do see parts of the game shifting back that way. Some teams that would never bunt in the postseason. So I'm like, are we watching the same game? I agree with him.
And the Brewers hustle, by the way. I forgot that one. The Brewers hustle.
Wait, is that a metric?
Apparently that's. I learned that today. The Brewers hustle, so people are going to start copying that.
How about your postseason hustle with a odds boost token, part of the BetMGM app? Score a bigger payout if you apply that boost to your bet. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. A quick slap hands, and then we'll get ready to watch the Dodgers Brewers matchup so that we can do our post-game show. All right, AJ, quick. What do you got?
All right, so I was at the airport flying home from Seattle. Ken Griffey Jr. standing next to me for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes terminal. Not one Mariners fan knew who he was. He literally was Ken Griffey Jr. There was a guy with the Griffey jersey standing 5 feet away from us. I'm sitting there talking to Ken Griffey Jr. Not one fan knew who he was. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's it. Would you recognize your favorite player if you saw him? That's all I want to know.
Griffey, of all people, too. Come on. You got to know Griffey. FT fam, we're back. Let's talk about the Fox One app. This is basically your dream segment, AJ. We have made everyone well aware of the baseball that is being played and how you can get the app in a 7-day free trial. And they're our presenting sponsor this month. But there are other things that you can dip into on the sports front. This is all you. This is your lane.
Yeah.
I'm not breaking down the weekend matchups like you can.
Big Noon will be on there. I think it's Washington at Michigan in the Big House. You'll get Dave Portnoy. You'll get Matt Leinart, who's been on the show. Brady Quinn, Mark Ingram. And then you can get NFL, which, the GOAT, who's a friend of mine. He hasn't been on the show yet, but he is a friend of mine. Kevin Burkhardt, good friend of mine. Michael Strahan, another good friend. I must have a lot of friends. It's weird. And I'm name dropping like crazy, which is amazing because Al Pacino told me to never name drop. So, but it's just one of those things, right? It's a great app because, listen, I shouldn't say this, but I have this app on my phone and on my Magic Box. If you don't know a Magic Box, look it up, and you can watch all the games while you're may or may not be driving down the street. So just saying, it's a great app for football, baseball, college football. Look, there's the GOAT. I mean, look how handsome that fella is. But I mean, it's just a great app for sports in general. If you like sports and you like the biggest things, especially baseball, Fox One's where you go.
And
Formula One. Let's not forget Formula One too.
Yep.
We're not Formula One. IndyCar. Sorry, they have
IndyCar
too. Yeah.
Word on the street is that we will get a Burkhart appearance at some point on FT. I know we talked to Wayno and Adam Amin already, but I'm expecting
Burkhart.
Yeah, I'm expecting Burkhart. I'm expecting Joe Davis. I'm expecting John Smoltz.
You're not asking for much, are you? We've had Verducci.
No,
we've had
I'm name
Smoltz.
dropping. No. Like during this time period, though, not in general. Like during World Series time, like over the next couple weeks, I think we're going to get them on the show. So just pointing that out.
And we've had most of the Fox broadcasting crew on, so it's not like we're missing guys. We've had most of them on. Joe, I think
we've had Burkhart, have we?
I don't think so, but he's great.
No, we have not.
Yeah, he is. He back in the day sent me a nice note or two when I was doing Mets games, like really long ago at this point, and really young. And it was a nice, encouraging note from someone who kind of went through an experience where Kevin's story is crazy. We can get into it at some point. He was like a car salesman and super talented, but wasn't getting the right gigs. And then things worked out for him. Also, from a show perspective, newest episode of The Floor dropped yesterday, hosted by Dodgers superfan Rob Lowe. And then they also have 100 contestants going to head in 99 to Beat, which is hosted by Ken Jeong and Aaron Andrews. So more of what you can get inside the Fox One app. Did I see a little Shohei doc at the top?
Mm-hmm. Searching for Shohei.
Searching for Shohei. I like that. We're still searching for Shohei too. One day. I mean, you can find him on every billboard in Japan.
What do we need to make that happen?
What do we need to do to make that happen? We need to be where he is.
I mean, I've shaken his hand and talked to him. I mean, I've been where he is.
Yeah. Well, then you have to go the next step and say, biggest platform out there. You might not be aware of it, but let's have a little discussion. And then
spring training.
Yes. Spring training is the time. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we all know that Kratz knows this. He's seen me. I just go up to anybody and be like, "Hey, you're coming on." Kratz has seen it live and in person.
It's pretty special. It's elite status.
It's not an ask; it's an obligation, but it's a friendly obligation. All right,
yeah, because they also know that. Yeah, they also know at some point that if they say no, then it's going to get back to somebody.
Yeah,
he has enough connections.
People listen. I tell people all the time, like, okay, I'll use the Dodgers this year. We had Evan Phillips come on, right? We had Freddie, we had Kirsch. Obviously, Alana was there, but we had Michael Kopech, who I've known for the White Sox for years, and he said, "Hey, how come you didn't ask me?" I'm like, "Michael, I know you don't want to do this. You don't like doing this, and it's cool, dude. I get it. You came on, you did your thing, and you don't." And he's like, "Oh, thank you." He's like, "I thought you were going to ask me." I was like, "No, dude, it's cool. You did it. I know you don't love doing it, but move on, right? It's fine. I get it. It's all good."
Exactly. Kratz hats.
Can actually do the old switcheroo here because I was going to wear this one, but something about the pink bat in the background and like it's shining. Now it's showing up totally fine, but it was going to help my lock hit because last time I wore this, Kike came on and he knew what this was. It's the Coquis from Puerto Rico. So you know what? Go for it, Kike.
Beautiful. Can you do it one more time just so we can see if the camera spazzes? Just like throw it up in front of the camera. It's working. It's working. Right nice, there. Nice. Yeah, I see that.
It's that's kind of cool. Turns on, like glows.
Yeah, it looks like it's a function of the hat. It's very cool. It is.
I charge the hat. I charge it. It's crazy. We've never seen it happen before. So it's TV magic.
Our team behind the scenes said, "You're glowing," and I think we should end on that note.
Thank you.
All right. So anyway, Foul Territory presented by Fox One done for now, and we will see everyone tonight following that 6:00 East Coast time start to the Dodgers and the Brewers, 3:00 local time, and then we'll come on whenever that game ends right after it. Enjoy the game. See you then.